I don't want to lose this one because I am pretty attached to it. This Machia is really the shining star on how things are going. How's it, my Orchids and Fynbos friends? Dave here with another quick update on my Zygopetalums. This is part of the CareCollab series run by Nina from Ninja Orchids, and I will insert a list of the participating channels on the screen now. So about probably like 6 months or so ago, we did the last update on the Zygopetalums for the CareCollab videos. I spoke quite a bit about the care in terms of light, watering, and various other factors, potting media and things like that when it comes to Zygopetalums in my specific environment. In my growing conditions, we have a bit of a Mediterranean type of climate, and we have rainy winters with very hot and dry summers. This has quite a bit of impact on how we care specifically, at least in our conditions, for these Zygopetalums. Most commercial growers do pretty well in our climate with the Zygopetalum orchids in greenhouses where there's constant misting and high humidity basically. In my greenhouse specifically, I haven't been able to set up a misting system easily because of the size of the greenhouse and a number of other factors. So this relies on me watering the orchids very thoroughly and very frequently in summer. And this is where I start to struggle a bit with my Zygopetalums. So in winter they do pretty well, get lots of green foliage and everything. And obviously new growths, but then we move to the summer and it becomes dry and hot, and because I'm not misting regularly, the leaves start to get this horrible spotting on them. So I've been playing a bit with micro environments in different areas of the house, and I've found positions where I get full morning sun through a net curtaining, and this seems to do very well. In this update I want to go through the orchids and where they're at the moment and how they've been doing, and what I've been seeing around those aspects. So the orchid that has been doing spectacularly well has been this one. This is the Zygopetalum Machia. This is a species, and you can see that there's very little spotting on the leaves of this orchid. As I mentioned in my last video, I'm starting to pick up that my main criteria that I need to focus on is basically the temperature and humidity during the summers. But you can look at my previous Zygopetalum video for more information about the relationship between light, temperature and humidity that I found, at least in my specific microenvironment. So I think this Machia is really the shining star on how things are going. The growths could be a little bit bigger. I think I did set back the orchid a bit after the last video. I tried to straighten it in the pot. As you can see, it's skew. That didn't work so well. It seemed to pull its way out of the pot again. So I've just left it at this point. You can see the new growths are growing straight and up towards the sunlight, so that seems to be fine. I'll have to wait till these just lose their leaves, and then the growth will be a bit at a weird angle, but that is what it is, it's fine. I don't want to disturb it again. I don't want to repot it at this point because the medium is actually fine and the orchid is doing pretty well. So hopefully next year we'll start to see blooms on this one. This one I spoke about. This was my Arthur L. Tombstone. So this one lost a growth. I can't remember if it was after or before the last video that I put out, but since then it's put out this new growth, went right through winter without any markings, without any spots in the greenhouse. Then we started to hit December when it started to get a little bit more hot and dry, and I started to notice some spotting. The moment I noticed the spotting, I immediately moved it lower down in the greenhouse into a more shaded area, and the new parts of the leaves that have grown have been without spots. So that was a very clear indicator to me that the heat was actually a problem in my specific environment. So this one should be fine now. Hopefully next year this one will put out a nice strong growth that will flower for me. Probably the orchid that I've had in my collection for the longest is the Zygopetalum, I think it's a Port Vincent Bright Eyes by something or other, but I'll put the name in the description. This one has been set back quite a few times. This is my one that I think I purchased about 3 or 4 years back, and year on year I've been getting the conditions wrong. After our move obviously to this place, it started to do really well in this this grow room, but as I mentioned, the summers get too hot here. And then also in winter, this room gets direct sunlight, which also heats up the room quite substantially, and it ends up becoming a pretty dry environment as well, surprisingly. So this room, I know, is not conducive to growing Zygopetalums and Promenade, which is another one I'll chat about in a little bit. I started to see the same issues with that in this room. So also I've moved this actually downstairs to our kitchen area because I said I wanted to keep certain ones in the greenhouse and certain ones out of the greenhouse just to see the conditions. So this is in a cool area, but bright light, and especially in winter it gets pretty bright light. So I'm seeing how this one does there. If a year or two's time it's still not doing wonderfully, then I might move it to the greenhouse where that one's situated. So I'm playing around with my conditions to see. But regardless, this one's done pretty well this year. As you can see, there's a bit of spotting still on this. It is not a fungus or anything like that. I've treated it numerous times because I initially thought that was the issue that I was having. So this one got quite a few fungal treatments in the beginning, and it's definitely the heat conditions. But yeah, this one has done reasonably well. We've still got some spotting on the leaves, but the newer growths are seeming to come out a little bit more cleaner. So we just have to see where this one goes to. And I have potted this up in a little bit of a more water retentive and more humidifying mix. So this is a mixture of sphagnum moss and perlite. So I'm experimenting again with this one, and we'll just see where we go to from here. I don't want to lose this one because I am pretty attached to it. It has a beautiful scent, and it's one of my favorite Zygopetalums so far. Previously you would have seen this one as two divisions in the black plastic pots. Again, I suspected that those pots were a bit too... they absorb too much heat, obviously being black and being plastic. So what I did is actually repotted it into clay, because I know clay has a cooling effect on the media, especially when it's in contact with water. So yeah, let's see where this one goes to. Then, as you will be aware of, I always include my Promenade in the Zygopetalum videos, as it is a very similar orchid in the same tribe, or I think it's the same tribe, I can't remember exactly. But I've observed very similar conditions with the Promenade as I have with the Zygopetalums. This one was also situated in this room. When I started with the orchid, and in the greenhouse, in both conditions it started to lose its new growths and started to do this thing where it puts out a keiki on the top of the growth. So I knew that the orchid wasn't happy. I subsequently moved it down to the kitchen area where I know it's a lot cooler, and I put it into a more water retentive mix that can create more humidity around the orchid, and it's done pretty well since then. It's put out a new growth that didn't lose a leaf, which is quite a substantial thing at this point, and it's also put out another new growth, and the keiki at the top hasn't died off. So I know that this one is in a much better condition, and so yeah, let's see how this one does. So again, just in summary from my experience between the Zygopetalums and the Promenade, which I've seen the same situation in my unique environment, is that in Cape Town, which can have very hot and dry summers, these orchids need quite high humidity during that period. Again, commercial greenhouses do pretty well because they have misting systems which come on numerous times during the day, which obviously create that nice environment for the orchids. I've chatted to other growers online. In general, these orchids can withstand high temperatures, but they obviously need to be compensated with high humidity as well, which is a common sense thing when it comes to orchids, but sometimes experiencing that and going through it with specific orchids, you start to realize a bit more, and this has been my real trial and error orchid. I've learned a lot from caring for Zygopetalums, and hopefully it goes up from here. Hopefully my next update will be a flower update. Let's hold thumbs for that one. I'm pretty excited to see where things go. I really love Zygopetalum orchids, and I would also like to get a few other similar species. I think the Zygonesia is one that I've seen recently that I really like, and then there's another beautiful orchid that a friend has who's doing pretty well with that orchid, even in Cape Town. So again, it might just be down to the microenvironment and specific rooms and areas, how hot they get and how dry they get and things like that. Please check out the other CareCollab channels. I'm sure there's going to be quite a few Zygopetalums in flower as well, and there will be a lot of great tips that we can learn from the other growers in their unique environments. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. So thank you for watching. Keep well, stay safe guys. Bye.